Ooh, no, this is spooky time. So, unfortunately, or fortunately, I got lost. I thought I knew where I was, and I was in a longitudinal and latitudinal, like accurate. But as far as my actual position, like I was at the front of the park where I need to be, but I was on the far right side of the park, whereas I parked at the far left side of the park, which is actually pretty far from each other. And looking at the screen, it messed up my night vision, so I couldn't, everything went pitch black, like when I turned it off, so I had to turn on my headlamp. Thank God for headlamps. And then all of a sudden, what's funny about it is, like, when you have your light off and your eyes are adjusted, no, that might not be the shortcut. That might be the way I got lost last time. I don't know, we're gonna try it. But when you have your light off and your eyes are adjusted to the night vision, you have 100% vision. You have your peripheral, everything. You can see all around you. But then as soon as you turn on the light, it acts as a spotlight, which is what the media uses when they want to heighten a situation. It's called spotlighting or tunnel vision. They'll spotlight an event to where you don't know what's going on around it, and you just assume, the brain fills in the gaps, and you assume that whatever you see going on in the spotlight is also occurring everywhere around it. They did that during the hands up, don't shoot era with Mike Brown, which is where I grew up in Camfield. Well, I grew up in Delwood, but Camfield was where Mike Brown was murdered. And it was interesting. I went back there, I don't know, decades, well, not too long, a few years after the whole riot with Mike Brown, but the total environment changed. Now it's like a largely Hispanic community, and they like genuinely are happy to be there. There was this random guy out acting. He didn't work there. He just was picking up trash, like cleaning up the community, and like everything was well kept and maintained. And you could tell that it was people that came there with far less and were very grateful to have what they had. And the whole vibe was very, because when I grew up, it was a very sketchy part of town, like a lot of drugs, a lot of crime, violence, and it was notorious for it. And which it didn't bug. I mean, I grew up in it, so it was like second nature to me. It's what I knew. But after getting out of that for 20 years and living a totally different life, going back there, I was a little intimidated. You know, I don't look the same as I used to. I don't carry myself the same as I used to. I don't emit the same frequencies or vibe as the youth would call it. I don't vibe the same way as I used to. So I used to stand out like a sore thumb in that kind of environment now, like a square, you know. People don't know the depths that come with me, but nor do they need to. But I was intimidated. The point is, I was intimidated to go back there knowing how I carried myself and the way I would be perceived as like an easy target. And I couldn't believe it, man. I walked in there and the whole vibe was just so different. It was like inviting and welcoming, and you could feel the gratitude in the air. But the spotlight effect, or the tunnel vision, what the media did during that Mike Brown episode, or not episode, but a tragic event, I won't get into that. I mean, like, no one deserves to get murdered, but I also know more of the story than most, and you know, I'm not saying he deserved to be murdered, but he was not like a gentle giant. You know, so anyways, I won't get into that, but yeah, it was a totally different experience going back there. Canfield is like what seemed to be largely, still low income probably, but largely Hispanic community, and they probably came from, far less, and they were super grateful to be there, and they take care of it, and it's well maintained and welcoming, inviting. People say hello, which is not what I grew up with, but that's not the point. The point, I'm just dumbfounded as I think back on that experience. So what the media did was showed West Florissant and Chambers, which is like literally was my backyard. SWAT was our SWAT team was running through, climbing the fence, running through the backyard. And in my front yard, there's a church parking lot, or church in the church parking lot. There was a guy out there with a shotgun shooting at the police helicopters up in the sky. I mean, it was nuts. It was nuts. But it was not the whole town. It was one street, like one, maybe a mile or 2 mile stretch of street. And granted, there were little like, sub parts in different areas, but the majority of what they were showing was existing in one street for about a mile long, which was bad. They were burning things. I mean, it was as radical as it looked, but it was one street. And the way they portrayed it was the entire St. Louis city under siege. And the Army guards had to go, it's the media, man. I just found this new news source. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see me, but, well, I can't really see when I'll do this. This is how important it is. I just found this new news source. It's called 1440. You can download the app for free. It's unbiased, factual-based reporting. 1440 news app. It's amazing. And if you have an Apple or an iPhone, or probably any smartphone will do it now, you can, with the smartphone, with the iPhone, you just 2 fingers from the top swipe down and it reads the screen for you if you have your settings set up properly. So you don't have to read it. You can just sit there and listen to the news, unbiased. Like, you can pick your news, you can select it. It modifies it towards what you want to hear, instead of bombarding you with what they want you to hear. And it's all fact-based so far. It's very insightful. 1440. I'll share the app, actually, on Facebook, so make it easier for people to find. Brilliant. So refreshing to find things like this popping up left and right. Like, I think I just watched this thing about the Gen ZX. Gen Z. Not ZX, Gen Z, which I don't even know what age bracket that is, but maybe I think it might be mine or the ones younger. But the whole thing was about how they are far less fearful to question authority. Good, bad, depends on the circumstance. But in this circumstance, it was a Navy SEAL in training, and he made a decision that was questioned and called him into like he had to appeal basically for his future career. They were going to take it away because of this decision they deemed as bad. And at every appeal, apparently you have to write a written statement that you present to the officers that are doing this appeal, are sitting in front of you. And they're drilling you. Like, their whole job is to shake you and rattle you and see if they can break your confidence and, get you off guard and weed you out. But this guy, the paper, the top of it, all he wrote was, "Fear no man." And the first guy, the guy that held like the most power, which could just totally say, "You're done," take his whole career away and everything he had worked for, read that. And at first he was like put off by it. And but as he was the last one to speak, that CO, or that, not CO, that officer, and maybe it's CO, commanding officer, different than the correctional officer that I got burned into my head. But he was the last one to go because he was the most powerful. So the other ones, they're drilling this guy. And the way it was explained is, like, you could have had like some kind of reader on her, I forget what they called it, but like a pulse reader or whatever. And he didn't flinch, like, didn't get flustered at all. He just answered the questions, yes, no, explain when needed. And so by the end of it, the commanding officer, which was originally put off by this fear no man, was pretty, spider webs, don't like spiders. Spiders are good, but not on me. By the end of it, he was impressed by this appeal process and this guy's solidness that he asked him. He's like, I got one question for you. He said, you got on the top of your paper, all you wrote was fear no man. And I've got the power to take your entire career away with just my work, with the decision. And are you afraid of me? And this Gen Z guy leaned in, looked them dead in the eye, and said, no, sir, I respect you, but I do not fear you. And that is the difference between Gen Z and the older generations, where they were, indoctrinated into respecting authority and your elders and not questioning anything that comes from above and just taking it as word as bond. And one of the things one of my best mentors in life taught me was, there were several like fundamental things that he tries to instill in his kids, or did instill in his kids. His kids are amazing now. Like one, the daughter, which I knew as like a little kid, she's now like some kind of biochemist professor or something. I don't know. She's like personally naming unidentified, newly discovered, like, living organisms and bacteria. Like, I don't know what, it's crazy what she does. But what's crazy is because I knew her when she was like sucking on lollipops. And man, kid, you grow up quick. Life goes by fast. But anyways, so he says, well, the one that only stands out, really, I don't remember, to be honest, the rest of them. I'll have to call them and see what the other ones were, because they're good. They're all really good. But the one that really stood out to me, oh man, ticks and spiders and bugs, I don't like that. So is stay curious. Always stay curious. And I was fortunately, it backfired on my mom in like my teenage years, and probably as adolescent. Well, my mom always taught me I had the right to know why I was being told something. So she encouraged me to ask why a lot. Well, you can see how that would backfire with a kid. Because that's all I did was ask why, especially if I didn't like the answer, was why? And you can ask why to every response pretty much until she would finally say, because I said so. And then I'd be like, well, why? So anyways, but it's a very real philosophy to live by. Is like, another way a guy put it that is also one of my other biggest mentors was, says, you know what the most important thing about any book is? And I didn't know. I thought, the content, whatever's in it, the message, the material, the knowledge. And he said, no, it's the author, because whatever you're reading is the author's opinion of that topic, which may or may not be right. So it's important to check your source, which falls back into the last video I made of how to check the source quickly. Is like, is it being derived from love, harmony, peace, all the good stuff, or joy, or fear, anger, resentment, envy, whatever. It's super simple to break it down into two things. Any given direction, any given idea, any given topic, any given feeling, any given... It's so easy to determine who you're serving at that point. If it's producing a good feeling... Now, I don't mean like feel good all the time, pain is not necessary. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like if it feels true and right. Like if you read the Bible, God is a spirit of love, power, the opposite of fear and timidness and anxiety. So that's all you got to do is like pay attention. Like, how are you feeling right now? I feel incredible, and I have no idea where I'm at, and it's pitch black out, and there's things, bigger things running in the woods. You know, I see them by the school again, which tells me I've gone too far, because I was supposed to be way back there somewhere. But no fear. I know I'm surrounded by the Spirit. Angels are probably walking with me. You know, priests of high order, saints. And I'm sure there are plenty of battles going on right now that I cannot see. Demons being slayed left and right. I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. I'm out.